Hello.
Hello, hello. We've just been instructed to mute ourselves.
I told you to do this.
I told you.
I told you he was going to do this.
Bloopers, guys. All right, everybody mute and share.
What's up? Oh, Joe, sorry.
So I'm good at safe.
Welcome, Formicast fans, to another episode of Formicast Podcast. This is your host, Durka. Let me do that again. Welcome, Formicast fans, to another episode of Formicast Podcast, your source for everything ant keeping. I am your host, Durka, and with me is my co-host.
I am the colonialist, your ant-keeping wingman from across the pond, for Queen and Colony.
And today we have a bunch of special guests. But before we do that, I want to shout out everybody who is currently watching. We have Ant Utopia, we have Antscapes, who is also guesting today. We got Ant Hollifer in the chat. JB is here as well. Let's see, we got Pator Swasha. Hopefully I didn't butcher your name, sir. I am really bad at it. And some other people's. Let's see. Sawdust and Stone. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. All right. So we do have in our guesting panel today, Ant Hollifer. Say hello.
Hello, hello. How you all doing?
Doing wonderful. Welcome back to the show. And also returning guest, Antscapes. Say hello.
Hello, hello. Hope you're all doing well.
Also returning is good old Aesthetic Ants. Say hello.
What's up, everybody? Good evening.
Also returning to the show is Poor More Art. Say hello. Oh. Poor More Art, did not hear you. Lexi? Jair? Can anybody else hear them?
Nope.
Nope.
That's a no from me.
Yeah, nothing here, man.
They are here, but I think we should introduce the next guest. And
There we go.
Oh, there we go.
Hey, it's Lexi.
And Jair. Sorry, I think I had the push to talk feature on and I'm still new to Discord.
All right.
How's everybody doing?
Wonderful. I am enjoying a whiskey. All right. Also, first time urban organisms. Say hello, good sir.
Hey, what's up to everyone? Pleasure to be here.
Glad to have you on. And last but not least, Wakusi. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Great to be here. Sid here from Wakushi.
Glad that you're here too, bud. All right. So usually what we do is we do weekly updates. So we're going to do it pretty quickly here because we have a lot of us. So first thing is I ended up finding a carpenter ant nest in our backyard, and my roommate was trying to like get rid of them, and I was like, please don't kill them. So he was like, can you try to like remove them or try to like move them or take them or whatever? And I was like, well, if I end up trying to remove the queen from the colony, that would kill off the colony. If I take them away, it could hurt them. So I was like, we did cut down the tree. We were trying to find the queen, but I was like, she's probably down in deep inside the trunk of the tree. So I did kind of remember something that Miles said during that interview that we had with him. Like, it's best just to leave them alone unless you have the experience to dig them out. So basically we just left them there, and I went back the next day and like the trunk is there and they're like still there. So I'm like, yeah, they're not gonna bother with the rest of your trees. So I'm like, yeah, just leave them there. Figuring out the tripod for my phone so I can start doing some live videos. Before we did the show today, I did a quick unboxing and showed you guys my my Campanadas disc color I got from Tar Heel Ants, and I also got some black lights to see if I can catch some queens. And then I also got a very controversial piece of equipment called a gel ant farm, which, yes, it is. We do not approve, but it's for purposes of the show. You guys will find out if you watch the video. We're going to be doing a crossover episode where we talk about giant farms and other stuff that we do not approve of. But I got the giant farm just to do a review on it. Got a lot of cool shout outs on Facebook this week, especially from Ant Antics. It was really cool to see that they're loving the show, they're listening to the show while they're packaging their stuff for their customers in the UK and Europe. So that's pretty cool to see that. I did order 3 Tar Heel Ant mini hearths for my Madagascar colony and my Lasius neoniger, and possibly be putting one of my Camponatus species in that one as well. I am looking forward to my fishing trip that's coming up next weekend, and so that week will be a break. We'll be using that weekend to mainly focus on the website and trying to figure out ways to promote the show more. So that's gonna be pretty cool. I also got some merch coming probably sometime next week. I ordered a black hat with the logo on the front of it, and a green T-shirt with the logo on the pocket. So there's gonna be like a pocket, which would be pretty cool. Cause you're out and you're looking for queens and stuff. And you're like, okay, well, where am I gonna? Remember you put like Snapchat files like in your pocket and stuff. I'm like, it'd be cool to have a pocket. I don't know why, it just came to mind. I thought that was a pretty cool idea, but hopefully the material's good. I'm looking at trying to find some type of a store online on the internet where I can make T-shirts and like do stuff like that, send merch to people. I was thinking like glasses or whiskey glasses with the logo on them, stuff like that, but that's pretty much all I have for my updates. JB, how about you?
Well, I've released my Lasius Noir, which is the sort of controversial Lasius Niger experiment. So I've announced that, and I'm going to do some follow-up pre-experiment episodes, and that's just planned to explain everything in more details. I had some sad news this month, so I got given 28 days notice, not just myself, but the entire team. The families decided to release the security department. So I'll be back on the road working here, there, and everywhere. Being self-employed, I'm always connected with work, but it's nothing steady and stable.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what will be happening for my schedule in the future. I've also decided to make this an opportunity to make a career change.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm starting to head in towards conservation, and I've started speaking to conservational societies and wildlife trusts about using my skills and transferring over, and looking to start a new career in conservation, which hopefully I can tie in with the ants and the content that I'm doing, which will be fantastic because I can start to merge my life rather than separate it as I always have. There's not much in the way of ants at the moment. I'm currently away, and unfortunately I managed to corrupt 128 gigabyte memory card, so I've actually lost a ton of footage, and I can't record more until I'm back from rotation. I did have some things fixed and altered on my logo by my awesome graphic designer, Audi Susanto. So the details can be found on the website if you're ever interested in hiring his services. And that's me for the week.
Okay, awesome. Porter, what do you guys got for your updates for this week?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. We released some new products. We have a nano feeding, kind of like this little mini outworld for your test tubes, with some tiny dishes that could fit into your test tubes or into this nano outworld. We also re-released the new and improved test tube array that was very popular, and we were getting a lot of people asking for it to return. It's back. And then we also added our logo to our boxes and bags, which I'm super excited about. I don't know, the little things that excite me. And then we started offering Zoom or Google Meet meetings to customers and kind of have a personalized shopping experience, so we can help them decide what they would like to purchase on the website, and kind of just like a store online, and where the salespeople trying to answer questions and guide them to the right product for them to ensure
How
that
did
they're.
that go? Did a lot
Sorry?
of people? How did that go? Did a lot of people join that event, or because it sounds very interesting?
Yeah, well, we just launched that service yesterday, and since yesterday, we already got a handful of people booking their appointments. And most of these customers, I think it's too early to say how it's working, but most of these customers, as we predicted, there are people that are brand new to the hobby. They see our website and, oh, everything looks very awesome, but what am I supposed to buy, right?
Mhm.
And we have had a good number of people make purchase that may have not necessarily been what they needed, right? Like, let's say you have a little small queen, no workers or anything, and you buy the biggest nest that we can offer. That will be a bit of a contradiction, right? But again, it can be overwhelming. So we decided to bring the store to them. It's sad that we cannot have people come to us because of COVID, but we have all these social media, Zoom meetings and whatnot going on. So we thought, why not help people that way? We've always been very receptive, and people reach out to with questions to us anyway. We just decided to formalize it
Mhm.
in case somebody was feeling shy or maybe afraid. Or sometimes people think, oh, maybe this is a silly question. I don't want to look silly. So all we did was just encourage people to ask questions before they buy.
Yeah, I think the idea is very good since a lot of people don't really know what to get for their ants, or the nest is way too big, and then like every colony is a unique, of course, and every situation is different. Oh, my ants don't have water in the tube. What should I do, etc. And yeah, it's very nice if you can guide them towards what they should buy. I think that's very noble, and yeah,
Mhm.
it's a very
Yeah,
good idea.
we know it's going to be very time consuming. That's our fear, but and this is not just because of the ant shop. Lexi and I have been working in customer service for probably have like a combined experience of 40, 35 years of combined experience in customer service in multiple businesses. And we know that being in touch with your customers, listening to what your customers need, being there for them and helping them through the way is really what makes a business stand out and be the best it can be.
Mhm.
I don't think that many years of customer service should be announced because I'm not that old. Just saying.
Sorry.
We've also are developing more products that will be launched soon. I'll let Jair talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, there's and again, this is us talking to customers. So customers come to us, tell us what they're looking for. We put it into a new product or idea. So right now we have 2 months of delay on ideas that we've been thinking on releasing 2 months ago.
Oh wow.
But it's exciting because we are having the time to start releasing some of those ideas, and yeah, we're happy to see customers are excited with that.
I'm pumped. I like you guys are my go-to with stuff. So,
Why, thank you.
well, thank you all. All right. Wakusi, you are next. What is your weekly update, sir?
Right, okay. I mean, where do I begin? I've been working a lot with some content creators recently. It's not so much a weekly update as such, but people like JB, there's quite a few experiments and things going on, which is really nice to see because, unfortunately, I think there's a lot of information out there that which may not be fully accurate. So it's nice to see that behind the scenes there are a lot of content creators, a lot of people who are willing to do a lot of research, development. Obviously, it's a key factor with a lot of the stuff that we do. I run very, very heavy R&D with regards to the nest because I'm one of the things that we're looking at is working at species specific nests. I mean, there's a lot of really fantastic nest manufacturers out there, but unfortunately, I feel like there's a lot of species that can be overlooked or branded as difficult to keep species, and that's a shame because there's species like Harpegnathus. Obviously, not everyone in the world is in an area where they can necessarily get hold of them, but the ones that can, I tried a lot to keep those, and I had a lot of unsuccessful attempts. So it was kind of a lot of trial experiments to test various mediums, methods, materials to make it so that they were happy in the environment. I think a lot of people put ants in nests just expecting them to be happy in them just because they're a great quality nest or whatever, but there's so many requirements and so many species out there that I think that the next step is kind of getting to that stage of making specific nests for species, as well as working on obviously just general nests, because probably 70% of ant species are perfectly fine in them and will thrive. But you know, and other ones, for example, like Temathorax, you know, acorn ants and things, they're probably one of the most popular ant species we keep on the store. We sell loads of them, but I haven't seen much evidence of them actually being successfully kept, which I find very odd, because a lot of people are buying them, but then not many people are showing evidence that they are thriving or they're being kept successfully. So I'm always curious about that. So we're working on a range of nests specific to them. Obviously very, very small contained, because they're not very big colonies, but they're a fantastic, very interesting species, and a lot of people like to keep those as sort of maybe, you know, one of the side species they keep. So because very few people, ant keepers, will keep just one species. I know there are some, but that, you know, from what I've kind of seen, that most people will keep 3, 4, you know, 20. There's no real limit. It's a very addictive hobby, and it's fantastic because they're so interesting. I mean, there's so many interesting species out there. But you know, just like with the Weaver Outworld setup, you know, sometimes certain species need a nest that's specifically suitable for them. So, you know, I'm putting a lot of time in the R&D side of things, and obviously getting help from creators, extra feedback, and these experiments is what's making that kind of work. So, you know, that's obviously this time of year with nuptials and things, it's very full on at the moment. So,
Yeah.
That's what's adopting a lot of the time, really. Yeah, so busy.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm just looking at the Venus nest, and I see you can stack them like that. That's really cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's again, that was primarily, funny enough, I think she was watching the Ant Lady actually kind of inspired that by having difficulty with the expense of test tube portals and things, and that's where it kind of the AC portals, because getting here into the UK, the fees and shipping and things is extremely expensive. So if you just want something, and it kind of just, unfortunately, it got a little bit over engineered, and that's a trouble I kind of have with a lot of nests, is it's knowing when to stop. But I like to kind of pack as much stuff as I can into them. They've been very successful, very popular, incredible amount of feedback from them, so they have developed quite significantly since launch, as most of the products are. No product that we offer is really finished. They're continually evolving as they're out, based on feedback, countless changes, as you know, Ant's Hood will know, and JB will know. There's always things sort of going on. But yeah, the Venus it's a great nest and very recommended for people who want to just, you know, kind of expand from test tubes.
Awesome.
Yeah, I certainly find them quite useful.
Yeah, I definitely want to check out that nest. Looks cool. All right, Ant Hollifer. Good sir. What's your weekly update?
Well, I've been very busy with the 1,000 subscriber special. Been working on that pretty much all week. After work, I don't know. It's been a really busy week for me, just working a lot and then going home and then editing and recording. Quite a long and busy week for me, but I'm glad everything is settled now. But my Fidoli PLE colony is in the middle of moving from a test tube to a new test tube, and I've changed the outworld, and that's been a very big journey for me to realize how bad Fidoli PLE workers are at living as an ant, because they could get into the outworld, and that was literally 1 millimeter from the outworld floor to the test tube, or not to the test tube, but the tube that connects to the test tube. But the workers are only around 1.5 millimeters themselves, and they weren't large enough to get into the tube, so they ended up dying out in the outworld. So yeah, not too great ant-wise, but else all my colonies seems to have had a pretty good week, except for my Fidoli peonies. And well, I've personally had a really busy week, but I'm satisfied with the results of the week.
That's good. Urban organisms. What about your weekly updates, bud?
Well, I've been working a lot on getting my new ant setup ready. I actually just got my new shelf in yesterday. I built that and it has some really nice LEDs on it. So I have to work on, yeah, just pretty much I have them all on like a table right now. So I have to, get rid of that table, move in the shelf where that was, and then move all the colonies. But besides that, a lot of my colonies right now, with summer pretty much already here, they're starting to grow really fast and outgrowing their nests. So I have some more. I have some like ant nest building supplies coming in from Hobby Lobby. So I'm gonna be busy trying to make some of my own nest. Because with the number of colonies I have, it's just impossible to afford buying a new nest for every colony when they outgrow their old one.
Yeah. Antscapes. What about your weekly updates?
Nothing much really. I got a promotion at work, and it's my second week. This week things are going well, so I've just been mega busy with that. I managed to bag a few tanks from car boot sales.
Nice.
Really good tanks as well. So, but I need to build a rack, just like urban organisms, and get a big rack built so I can get them all on.
Yeah.
And once they're on, the animal room, it'll be sorted and I can start all my projects. It's just building that rack because obviously it needs to be strong enough to hold quite a few. It's not going to be a sort of animal like a gaming and animal room now. So what I can do is remove the sofa where that was and actually fit more tanks there. So yeah, that was cool. And I might just be keeping quite a large or even bigger tank than my Rugonodis one and trying to do something completely different with that as well. So I'm excited to start that one because I'm thinking about doing like a succulent, a natural succulent, so like in arid springtails, etc., etc. And it'd be the first time I've done something like that. So, but I want to keep it huge, if I can, and even maybe just have multi-species. But I don't think I'd go to that anyway. Just having like multiple species of ants and obviously different critters and creatures in there. But that's about it, really, man. Just been mega busy and very, very behind on content. For all the footage, just haven't edited any of it. So I'm excited to get that finished, though.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
that's about it, really, man.
Cool. Except cans. Other than going to dinner with your girlfriend, any updates?
Not really. I'm curious that you got a. I'm just at my printer now, and it looks like it'll fail again. One big blow off, nice. But anyway, yeah, updates tomorrow is a very nice, if I say so myself, a video coming out about Campeonatus Discolor. I got the Ant Lady as well. Sponsorship is a weird word, but it's more like a gift to document them. Very exciting video. We spent a lot of time in it, and I think it turned out really cool. So yeah, check out my video on the Campeonatus Discolor. It will be a nice one for sure. That's my update.
Nice. You're really robotic there, but I think I understood that. I was able to understand what you said, but you're using your phone, correct?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I'm
we go.
home, so I'll be on my PC in 5 minutes.
All right, cool. But yeah, pretty much got that. I'm excited to check out that video since I just got my first small colony of them. So, all right. So I do have some questions, and basically I'll ask them, and we'll go down in order. So the first, what's that? All right. So the first question that I have is, if I was a brand new ant keeper, what advice would you have for me? Aunt Hollifer, would you have any advice?
I would definitely say when you're researching and people say be patient, they are serious. Be patient. Also, if you are a new ant keeper and you have the opportunity to get like 3 colonies, I would definitely recommend getting 3 colonies, because sitting and looking at one colony is stressing that one colony, and sitting there not looking at that one colony is even worse, because you can't look at it because you can't stress it. So definitely do a lot of research and realize that patience is crazy big here in the hobby, and maybe get 3 founding colonies not necessarily the same species, but also just because, well, founding colonies often go wrong, and therefore it's good to have, I don't know, at least 2 or 3 colonies to start off with, because then you're not just stressing one colony.
Okay.
That's a little tip for me.
Awesome. I'm going to ask the same question to urban organisms. If I was a brand new ant keeper, what advice would you have for me?
I guess this is sort of a somewhat of a cliche answer, but I'd say do your research. Especially, I see this also in some other hobbies I'm in, especially with like Facebook becoming more popular now. You get a lot of people who, I guess, I don't know, find their queen ant or maybe even like impulse purchase their first queen off of, say, like eBay or something. And, they buy their queen, they catch one on the street, and they're like, oh, what do I do? And while, of course, it's great to, ask questions, the very basics, there's tons of information out there. Formiculture especially. I've noticed also in general over the past few years, like the online trend, it's moving like away from like forums and stuff like that, and more towards like Facebook, Discord. So you can join the Facebook groups. Obviously, join the Discords as well. There's tons of experienced keepers there. But the very basics are all out there. So really, do your research, do the reading, even reading papers on, say, like the specific species you want to keep. But for most species, care is pretty general. Test tube setup, if you have them in a nest, some sort of hydration, food is some protein, some carbohydrates. So do your research, and also obviously you have to be patient. But yeah, just read as much as possible, because when the more information you have, the more prepared you'll be for whatever comes your way. Whether, say, it's a fungal outbreak in a test tube, or you catch some queen of a different species you weren't expecting, or for finding queens, being prepared for the nuptial flights. So yeah, just really figure out what your goal is, rather than just sort of like dealing with things as they come, and have somewhat of a mental plan as to how you want to achieve that goal.
Nice. All right, so we'll move on to the next question, and I'm going to ask this of Poor More Makusi. What is 5 things an ant keeper should have on their person or in their supplies? Poor More, you can go first.
That is, I think the one thing that I always have at hand is little tiny small containers. Because I always find ants when I'm not looking for them. And when I am actually looking for them, that's when they hide. So I think having enough test tubes or containers at hand for that that spontaneous queen that may show up, it's a good idea. I think you should always have an escape barrier. I'm not going to say which one you should have, but at least have one method of containment. I think you should have at all times an emergency source of protein and an emergency source of sugars. I think you should have at all times
Cotton balls.
Cotton balls, yeah. True, cotton, super important. A clean, dependable, trusty source of water for your ants. I think sometimes we overlook that, and most of us have perfectly fine water coming out of the tap, but not everybody has that, right?
Right.
So being able to provide the minimum hydration and feeding is important, to have those supplies, and have like an emergency setup. And I guess I'm just thinking about if something goes wrong with your setup, if we're not prepared, what would I do if mold breaks into this nest? Or what if I do if this goes wrong? Like, do I actually have a simple emergency setup or strategy to relocate the colony so I can try to do something? In other words, always have that plan B prepared. Don't just bank on plan A. Have plan B prepared in case something goes wrong.
I think that was 5.
Yeah, okay.
Sweet.
Sure.
That's some really good advice. One thing I do want to say is, people, wash your hands.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
I actually use nitrile gloves when assembling nests, when preparing substrate, when touching the product. So there's a stage on my product where there's a wash. There's multiple washes on the product, but there's a point where it will no more be washed and rinsed or anything. From that point onwards, I always work with gloves on everything that I do, trying to avoid, sending you a nest that may have a pathogen or a spore or a bacteria or something, beat it. So that's what I do. And I always fear that, the first thing that happens with some people when they open the product and they're going to use it is if they didn't wash their hands, then what was the whole point of me being so cautious, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That makes perfect sense. Wash your hands, be as clean as possible.
Yep. The reason I say that is because the first Camponatus queen that I caught recently, the all black Pennsylvania, I always butcher the names, but because I had cleaning chemicals on my hands, she died. I think that was the reason for it. So yeah, making sure you wash your hands or make sure you're wearing gloves. That's really important. Wakushi, I'm actually gonna give you the next question. How does a new ant keeper that has a fear of ants get over that fear? This is like my favorite question.
Yeah, I mean that's a really tough one. I mean, I hear that a lot, and I don't think there's really an answer for it, to be honest. I think, I guess, what I would do if I was would be just start with like a not an aggressive species, something really passive. Just maybe let a little worker go near you and just kind of just slow little baby steps and just kind of working into it. Like anything, I'm sure there's a lot of people who, are scared of spiders and that kind of stuff. So, yeah, that's probably just baby steps. Just work towards it and find the right, small species, no stings, no bites, just kind of work into it, stuff like Lassus niger, there's no aggression, there's no reason for them to make you, I guess, scared of them. So that could be, I guess, the only really advice. Study them a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Understand, I guess, they're what they're capable of, and I guess the more you research them, the more you'll probably understand that it's not something, I guess, to be scared of. And I think the more you study anything, the more you tend to appreciate it. One such example, there were some species when I first got into ant keeping, I was absolutely terrified of. One such being like the Harpegnathos. I have a fairly reasonable sized colony of them, and I was petrified of these things because the fact that they can jump, they lunge, jaws, sting, they've got the works. But actually, when you understand them and you watch them more, you kind of learn a lot of their habits, and you realize that actually they're only aggressive when you kind of provoke them. So they actually can be very tame. There are others that obviously, that are not like that. But when you study them more and you sort of around them, you see, I guess that fear level kind of disappears.
Yeah. Today at men's group, when I was hanging out with some friends, one of my friends came up to me. He was at the camping trip too, and he's got like this giant daddy long leg spider, and it's like holding it by its web. And he brings it to me. He's like, "Look, the spider." I'm like, "Get that away from me!" I'm like, he's like, "What? I thought you liked spiders." I'm like, "No, dude."
Yeah, I mean, it happens. I think just understanding. I think it's a lack of understanding that creates that fear. If there's something that you're scared of, a lot of the time it's because of an experience which you maybe didn't understand, that was thrown on you suddenly, and that's what's created that potential fear. Or I mean, obviously there are phobias, but I think that might be on another level. If you're just not into ants or scared of ants, I mean, there's not really, unless there's certain species. Obviously, there are definitely species out there to be scared of.
Right.
I Tetraponera. Some of those are they just want to kill. They just want to get at you, and they are very very aggressive. There are a lot of species out there, but luckily they're quite rare, and people who usually keep them are prepared for them. So
right.
Yeah, so.
Cool. I'm going to ask this question to Aesthetic Ants. If you could write a letter to yourself when you first started, what would it say? Would you encourage yourself in any way about your journey or give yourself any advice?
Oh, that's a very good question. Very interesting one as well. Question that definitely needs some preparing. Don't have an answer for that right away. But I knew when I started. But wait, when I started ant keeping, right? Not when I started creating content. Yeah, I think when I really started ant keeping, I wouldn't have wrote that much to myself because I wasn't very serious at ant keeping. So I'll just look at the past year since I actually started keeping ants seriously. And I think in the letter it should say, just try hard, do your research, and eventually you'll get that leafcutter setup. I think that's what it should say. So yeah, that's of course it's maybe a little bit overrated. But yeah, I think leafcutter setup, like with tubes going through the house and stuff, that's the ultimate dream for me at least. But yeah, I
Okay.
guess that's what it would say.
All right. Antscapes. Do you have any advice for me personally about ant keeping or the show itself?
To be honest, probably not. I mean, for myself, I'm still fairly new to ant keeping. If you wanted any advice on a natural setup, then yeah, I mean that's kind of my area. But I was actually going to say exactly the same as urban organisms and Antholfer, just about the patience thing, the research, because that's so important, even when making natural setups as well. But I think it's just really important to do your research, and I sort of second everything they said. Everyone always bangs on about patience, and it actually is so important. It's the most important thing. I got a colony from the ant lady, and I just check it every week, maybe it's a week and a half, and just leave it be. Cremtogastus scutularis, if I've said it right. It was at like 7 workers like a month ago, and it's now literally at like 70 plus, and it's going absolutely crazy. I know they're a fast species anyway, but I feel like I'm doing something right, but that's because I did a lot of research on them, and when they're like sort of mature enough to move into a natural setup, I want them about 150, 200 workers first. I know exactly what I'm doing now. I know what I want them to be in terms of that natural setup, how I'm going to make it, natural soil, what I'll be using to keep it dry, but in areas moist for them to actually still easily be able to obtain, water and essential things that you would feed them and things like that anyway. But also plants that would go into that setup, how much lighting those plants would need, all these little things are just, I'm constantly doing research on it. So I'm hoping soon I can, have something complete and dead set that I want to do with them. Because at the moment, I know exactly what I want to do with the soil, with the lighting, the plants, but at the same time, then there's other certain things I'm not too sure on because I actually don't know how big they're going to grow. So I'm still debating what size of a setup I would need to put them in, because then I wouldn't want to take them out of that setup and put them, into something that they're just going to outgrow and cause me problems. And also, again, like what urban organisms said, it's about like, knowing nuptial flights and making sure you've got it secure enough, because I'm assuming they'll probably swarm the species. So, yeah, but yeah, just the research, patience, and all that sort of stuff. Knowing what you're doing and why, and having a plan in place.
Okay. I'm going to ask this question to Hollifer. I do not remember writing this question, so maybe JB did. If you were to make a major impact to the hobby of ant keeping, what do you hope it would be? Your claim is famous, they would say.
I must say I should have gotten a aesthetic answer question, and he should have got this one.
That's my question, by the way. Yeah.
Oh, is it?
To be honest, I'm not really sure, because I mean we have this whole "we don't approve" movement, which is changing or trying to change the hobby. But personally, I don't think there's really any like major things except for this whole gel farm and live feeding. Personally, I think the hobby is growing well, and it's going in the right direction. Definitely with the whole "we don't approve." If we just get people to know why we don't approve, because I definitely think that the hobby is growing, and it's growing the correct way and not the incorrect way, or it is growing the wrong way. But it's I mean, Exotic is trying to correct that.
Yeah. Fast forward to 2 weeks from now on the 19th, we are doing a crossover episode between the Colonial Ant Cast and Formicast, Aesthetic Ants and Bakusi. We are doing a We Don't Approve episode where we're going to be talking about the movement to explain the movement. And then I'll be talking about the gel farm that I just ordered so that, people can kind of get a closer look at what it looks like and all that other stuff. And there's like a booklet in it too that we're gonna like go over that booklet and point out the facts and what's wrong and all that other stuff. But it's gonna be really good. It's gonna be a really good episode. It's gonna be on both feeds, and that'll be a way to get the movement out. And Never know. I might actually print a shirt that says we don't improve on it. That'd be a really good idea. I might have to take that idea from you instead of Gantz. All right. So we're gonna go into the break really quick. First thing I have is a video from Ants Belgium, which y'all know that. Oops. Let me. For some reason, I didn't want to go over there.
You're making merch. I'm buying some.
Yes, that's the plan. I want it. There we go. Doesn't want to move over. There we go. Yeah, the plan is to make. Cool. Thank you so much, Ants Belgium, for that video. Alright, so the next thing we have is a promo for this episode, the next episode from Portmore Art in Wakusi. Portmore Art, if you want to go ahead and talk about the promo for this weekend, go ahead.
All right, so we would like to offer a promo code to the Formicast listeners. The first 5 Formicast listeners to use the coupon code Formicast10 will get 10% off their purchase at portmoreart.ca.
Is there an expiry date?
Yes, they have. We have a month to use the 5, which I'm pretty sure it'll be used fairly quickly. So don't wait and get in there today.
Cool, awesome. And Wakusi, what is your promo code, sir?
So what I'll do this weekend is 15% off the whole store, anything they want, running for this weekend for any of the listeners using code Formicast. So that will be running today, tomorrow, and finishes Monday morning, depending where you're at.
Cool. Sweet. Thank you so much. Make sure you guys who are listening take advantage of those 2 awesome promo codes. All right. So we have some prepared questions that we got during the week. The first amount of questions is for Portmore. What's the favorite ant species you sell?
That we sell or that we own?
Questions that you sell. Yeah.
Well, if it's that I sell, I would go with Campanada's Noble Senses.
Yes, I like red, but I also don't like. I also like not being stung, so no, thank you, fire ants.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna go with Nova. But we really only started selling ants on our website this year. We tested it out last year with just the extra ants that we've caught.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't anything huge. This year we partnered up with Zachary at
Ants Kinetic Colony.
That's the one. And as well as some locals to offer to be able to offer more species, but we do try to focus on beginner friendly species and leave like the more advanced stuff to Zachary because he's very knowledgeable in that area. So we'll leave that to him.
And that's been really good for us as a business to have Zachary nearby because, you know, I would not have the time to work in designing and production of products and at the same time taking care of 1,000 ants, right? I just don't have the time. He, on the other hand, has all the time to take care of the ants, and he has great ideas for development of products, which is what I specialize on. So us working together, even though we're separate business, but we take care of each other because we grow different aspects of the hobby, has been really, really cool for us. So yeah, So in other words, our website features mostly simple to keep beginner species for those customers that want to buy some of our gear with some ants. And if they want anything more specialized, I would just ask Zachary and bring something over. And that's another thing we're doing on the website. If you want to buy something from our site, but actually want to get something specialized from the Canada Ant Colony side, you can do your purchase in our website, and we bring merchandise from Canada Ant Colony all the time to our place. So, and vice versa. So we are also offering the commodity of customers on placing the order, whichever website they prefer, right? That's been really cool. But lately, what I've been more excited about, more on a personal note, not so much what we sell. I have Laches aphidicola. We have Laches revicornis and Stenema revicorn, which are not necessarily the most common species that you see with the ant keepers here in Ontario. They are species that are considered cryptic, and I'm trying to figure out, again, in collaboration with Zachary and the feedback of some customers, trying to figure out the best approach to creating a nest that is best suited for cryptic small colonies. And as one of our followers said, I'm just looking for a simple small colony that fits in your pocket. And again, that's not the goal, but cryptic ants, a lot of them, especially the ones we have in our area, seem to be very small colonies. So we're able to bring those small colonies into a practical setup that is suitable for them, and if stay small for the entire length of that colony. There's a lot of keepers that are looking for that small compact size. So I am studying those species, so that's my personal challenge right now.
Cool. I was gonna say, did the oh yeah, you got it. Sweet. Do you make nests yourself? Is the next question.
Yes, we make our nests completely ourselves, from the 3D printing to the texture to the glass. We even cut the glass to fit on our formicarium. So from the very, very beginning to the very, very end, we do the whole thing.
Yep.
I do actually like the fact that you use glass over acrylic as well. I know people worry about it breaking, but I actually prefer it as a material. Not just for the simple fact that you can recycle it, so it's less damage into the ecosystem, but I think glass has a better property to it than acrylic, especially with heat dispersal.
And it doesn't flex.
It's one of those things that I've been going back and forth. There are things that I like about acrylic, absolutely, and I like that I'm able to cut it with precision, right, under machinery and whatnot, way easier than it is for me to cut glass. That I really like about acrylic. But one thing, and this is a very personal choice, and it's my perfectionism, acrylic scratches way easier than glass. And as soon as I have a tiny little scratch on anything that is my personal belonging, I just cannot live with that anymore. So again, that's me and my complexities. But
I'm the same. A little chip or a little scratch, and it just bugs me beyond. Yeah, I'm a perfectionist as well when it comes to stuff like that. So
true.
So we did start working with acrylic. Definitely, we started with that route, and I had some designs that included some complicated cutting patterns that I was going to take advantage of. But I couldn't get away from the scratches. As much as I tried, I just decided to drop the acrylic project, and then I spent like 2 months mastering how to cut glass fast and precise without accidents and waste. And then finally we started putting glass in our products. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, this is the nest that I have from you guys, the classic hybrid, and then I also got the what's it called? The honey cell. I got that coming here in the mail. It's pretty soon. Did have a question about the honey cell though. Where do you put the water when it comes to their hydration?
The honey cell. So the honey cell, ironically, I consider it to be the most powerful nest in our website. I know it's very small, it's very tiny. It can be, you can be like, whatever, it's just a little tiny small nest, not a big deal, but it's a really, really versatile nest. And ironically, it's one of the nests that fits not every species, of course, but if it's the vast majority of species that we have here in Canada, at least in our area, for the majority of the beginner species, right? So it's a very versatile nest, and it's very ingenious because the water chamber is actually hidden behind. So you have two magnets on the front. Behind one magnet, you're going to have your tubing hole, and then behind the other magnet, behind it, you have the water chamber. And so when you look at from behind, you're going to be able to see your water level, and also you will be able to see inside of the nest and, see the ants from both sides, the front and the back. So yeah, when you get it, you're going to see that all you got to do is look at it from the back, fill it up with water, and you're up and running.
Sweet. Yeah, I'm very excited to get it. Probably going to put one of my my campanadas in it, or one of my other two that I need to move into a nest. I'm using my Formicast.
Sorry.
My Formica species is using the aesthetic ants test tube portal currently for their feeding.
Sorry, the honey cell, we're actually planning on launching a Campanadas special with Ants Canada Colony. We're actually preparing the merchandise right now. It's not a new nest. We're just putting together a special. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And we have tested it out. I'd only recommend filling out the water chamber around 20 to 30% of its capacity.
Okay.
Probably once a week, maybe once, 1.5.
Yeah.
Because Campanadas is not a high humidity species, and the honey cell Formicarium, if you fill it up above 50% capacity, then it will stay highly humid. If you fill it up under 50% capacity, then it will turn into a more dry nest. Okay. So for Campanadas, you need somewhere between 20 to 30% of the water chamber, no more than that.
Okay. What is the hardest nest to make?
I personally would have to say the cave. I think yours is different than mine.
The big honey cell, the little honey cell is actually not the hardest, but it's not the easiest. The big honey cell would be for me the hardest. The cave is also there, and the reason why these two nests have the most complexity, they both have a glass on the front and a glass on the back. And then they both also have sealed water chambers with their own glass. So they do have the more complex water chamber system that we have, the cave and the honey cell. So making sure that those water chambers are working properly and ensuring that the finishing is perfect. And the seal between the glass on the front and the back, especially with the big honey cell design, if not done properly, then that can be complete chaos. So it does require a lot of attention to ensure that the honey cell ends up sealing correctly both glasses, and the water chamber ends up sealing inside of the both glasses as well. So that's 3 glasses in total. And then making sure that everything is leveled perfectly, so there's absolutely no gaps. But when done correctly, this nest can hold species that are really good at digging and escaping and destroying nests, because it's harder for them to destroy the 2 glasses on each side. So there's already less area for them to work on because they're sandwiched between hard glass.
Yeah.
So they will have to get first past the substrate and then start going through the plastic frame and then finally get out of there. So we haven't had any casualties yet, but I would say it's also the toughest nest to break out of, in my opinion.
What's the largest order you've ever sold?
To a business, I would say about 2,000, between 2,000 and 3,000. To a customer, like in one sitting, we have customers that keep coming back, and each time it's a pretty good sale. But for one sitting, I would have to say about 500.
Dang.
Canadian dollars, that is.
Canadian.
Yeah, for sure. Sweet. What was your first order?
It was a 3D printed honey cell version. It was kind of like a honey cell.
I would say, it was one of the nests that started to hint the idea of the honey cell.
This was prior to officially starting the ant shop. So it was kind of what started the ant shop, really, because they purchased it, and then they gave us some feedback, and they wanted more stuff, and we started creating more stuff, and we went from there.
Okay. Two questions for Rakushi. What's the most expensive species you've sold?
Probably. I mean, we're spoiled over here with the amount of species we have available. Individual colonies and species, probably Camponotus singularis, a very very big Asian Camponotus species.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're approximately like 100, 120 sometimes pounds, like 140-ish euros or something. So yeah, it's probably the most expensive ones we've sold on the site anyway.
Yeah. And what species do you sell the most of?
That changes sometimes throughout the year, because obviously it does depend quite heavily what's in stock. Obviously, if I just said what's the most popular selling, probably Lesser Niger, because it's usually in stock throughout the year, because of just how many we can get from the summer nuptials and things. So Mesobarbarus, very popular. So we get a lot of the classic ones that you would expect are generally the most popular. So yeah.
Right. What species do you plan on keeping soon? Oh no, sorry. That's going ahead. Sorry. How did you start selling ant-related products?
So let me think. So there's always been a natural interest in insects from a very early age. Reptiles, insects, all types of things. I've always liked the idea of ant farms, and probably like everyone is. And it's like that super thing that everyone's going to say. It's like Ants Canada planted that seed a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Watching it from probably a few years ago when things when he first kind of I guess popped up. I think that maybe started planting the seed that maybe there was actually a following for these types of things. And after not knowing much about ants, because unfortunately in the UK we don't have much to choose from over here from native species. If you live in sort of urban areas, you generally just, I think probably up until about 4 years ago, I didn't really know there was much more than black and orange ants, yellow ants.
Mm-hmm.
So Latius flavus and Niger, I didn't really even, you didn't really witness the rest. So it wasn't until after kind of looking into things more, I realized actually, do you know what? There's actually some really interesting species out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I've kept things like praying mantis before for a really long time, and then just kind of stumbled into the 3D printing and started working on that more and more and more and more, and then suddenly realized from seeing all kinds of various different things on Thingiverse, like people are making ant farms. And then I kind of thought, well, some of these look quite good. And after doing more and more research, I realized that actually quite a lot of them maybe don't meet the requirements that actually they could be made better. So then I just kind of stumbled into it, really. And it may touch on to the whole, what was your first sale? I don't know if that's a question I was going to be asked, but I just worked on generation 1 of what we had maybe like 2 years ago. And the first one that sold was just a complete, it was like a little thing with 5 modules, and it had a feeding area and a nesting area and a little sort of we had Outworlds, but that wasn't included in that. It was a little water dispenser kind of built in as well, and that kind of was the first thing that sold. And then I realized, well, okay, there's actually people looking for these types of things, and then it just kind of grew and grew continuously from there, really. And then obviously just being in and around it more and learning more about ants. And I think unfortunately a lot of people don't realize how unbelievably interesting these are in comparison to a lot of other things. There's a lot of snake keepers, a lot of tarantula keepers, a lot of scorpion keepers. They're huge hobbies, but there's really such a small comparison of keepers compared to those in the ant keeping hobby, which is odd, because obviously coming from those, I realized that these can be 10 times, 20 times more interesting than those hobbies. So I think that it's just kind of falling in love with a hobby, and seeing unfortunately a gap in, it's a very undiscovered hobby, and there's still so much work to be done with regards to all the different species out there. They're still discovering new species, and that's fantastic. and it's getting, there's more and more access, and obviously in the last few years there's been a lot more stores that have popped up, offering, working harder to acquire those more interesting species. Obviously we're lucky over this side of the pond to having much less restrictions on what we can and can't sell, and what we can and can't acquire. And there are stores out there, the Ant Lady's making tremendous movements with regards to acquiring species and stock that previously weren't available to keepers. And I think it's great when you've got those native species, and they are absolutely the best way to start. But when you kind of look at those more exotics as well, that's when you can really start appreciating how interesting this hobby can become. Things with leaf cutters and all this type of stuff. They're a truly amazing hobby, and there's some fantastic stores making huge movements with regards to progressing that hobby, and that's great to see. And that's obviously kind of what's inspired the store just to keep going and keep working at progressing the hobby. That's all we do.
Awesome. What is the most unusual species you've sold?
Unusual. I don't know how you would classify that, because there's so many different species. I guess unusual would be different from the rest. I guess you've got, I forget the name of them now. They're the queenless ones, pungens. I just think that the way that they have no queen, they don't have gamma gates. They just reproduce through the workers, which I think is really unusual, that they have no queen, they have no gamma gates. That was I haven't had them too often, so I haven't had much study in them, but I always thought that was a really, really interesting genus to keep. And like I said, it'd be nice to work with them further in the future, because they're a relatively unknown species, but they're a species of queenless ants.
Interesting. Yeah, I thought I heard of.
Do get them, shout me.
Yeah, JB will know. Who is it?
No, I was saying if you get them, shout me. I'm actually just
yeah,
fan from a
they're
couple
I think they're like
species now.
Pris the Myrmex pungens or something like that. I'm sure Ant Lady will probably comment in the chat, or someone will comment the name of them.
Yeah.
But they're a really, really interesting species. We had a few of them last year, and they don't pop up very often, but yeah, just super interesting how they just generally work. I'd love to study them and just kind of understand how they work in the wild, but they have no queens, no gamma gates. Somehow they manage to just reproduce as workers.
I wonder if this is the one you're talking about.
No, they're because those are gamma gates. Type in pungens. I'll find the name, because they're actually a super
Yeah. That right there.
So, yeah, Pris the Myrmex pungens.
Okay.
Found them?
Nope.
You type in pungens ants, that should bring them up. I don't want to butcher the
Pun.
Mr. Myrmex punctatus.
There's a few different species in that genus. I think that ultimately they work very similar.
Okay. Yeah, we'll have to do an episode on them too. But so we have a lot of questions, but we're gonna split it in half since we have so many. We're gonna do half of them today, and then we'll open up the waiting room since we got people in there. Yeah, I think there we go. That's what they are. So we'll do half of them now, and then tomorrow we'll do the other part since we have enough for 2 parts. We have more on the second part, so that's be good. So for all, basically we'll go in order. The first one is, what was your first colony, Ant Hollifer?
I'm gonna go old, regular, and boring, and because my first colony was a Latius Niger. So, yeah, that's how exciting I am. But I mean, it gave me some good experience because, well, I got to feel what it was like being an ant keeper, and I messed up a lot. And if I would write a letter to myself, I would probably make a whole story about that first colony, because that was really messed up.
All right. Second question. Sorry, Antscapes. What was your first colony?
The same as Ant Hollifer. It was Lacey's Niger, but again, they're so resilient. It was I'm fortunate that I did keep them because, again, I made a lot of mistakes. Main one is not being patient enough. So, yeah, but yeah, my first species was Lasius niger.
Nice. Pour more art. What was your first colony?
Our first colony was Formicast obsericea. Yeah.
JV, what was your first colony?
My first colony was actually Lasius niger, and it was when I was incredibly young. So I actually got my mum out on the nuptial flights and had her collecting up ants with me. She thought I was crazy.
Yeah, my friends think I'm crazy too when they see me bring in like 20 Lasius neo-niger queens into the house. Like, what are you doing? They're like, I'm an egg keeper now.
I actually think there's something special about the experience with Nigers, though. I mean, I know everyone sort of outgrows them or finds them boring if they enter the exotics or something like that, but
Yeah.
everyone has that sort of special moment, and it usually is with that starter species, and they're such like a hardy little species. I mean, I find them quite exciting when they're like 200 workers plus. That's the size of a Lasius colony that I love because they're so active, they're so busy. I love it when the workers get really excited when they find something and go darting back and tell all the other girls, and then they come out for a party, and it's quite interesting to watch. It's just the period between that, it can take up to sort of 5 years to establish the species.
Yeah.
I mean,
I love their hyperactivity pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, my colony is only around a year old, but it's starting to hit that point. It's been pretty regular to look at until, I don't know, around 2 or 4 weeks ago, my queen just went crazy and just spat out, I don't know, 100 eggs. So it's a lot more exciting to follow now. And it is just regular boring Lasius niger, but still looking like a colony boom.
Nice. Urban organisms, what was your first colony?
My first one was actually Nylanderia flavipes. I think that's how you pronounce it. She was it wasn't the first queen I caught, but it was the first one I raised that got her workers first. So when I checked on her tube that first time and I saw that first worker walking around, that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Wakushi, what about you? What was your first colony?
We actually, I mean, I must say, got into it quite late. So we were kind of working on the 3D printing stuff. It was actually Camponotus nicobarensis, purely for the reason that we needed something that grew quick. And it was one of those ones that people generally has a bit of reputation for growing fast, which it does. So purely for product testing, that was the first colony. I could probably say that was kept as a personal colony. We'd been keeping ants and sort of selling ants and things before then, but that was probably one of the first proper personal colonies, I would say.
Nice. Let's see here. The next question we have, which whoever wants to answer this one, we can go ahead and just go in order or whichever. What species do you plan on keeping soon? Does anybody have like a species that you are planning on keeping?
I have a list, as always.
Yep.
I'm planning to do a Formica series.
Mm-hmm.
I think Ants Hood's going to be joining me with that because he's a little bit ahead of me because he's already got the slaver species. But I've had a plan for a while to keep a load of donor colonies, so it'll be the subservient Formica species, but I want to keep a variety of different species of the genus.
Mm-hmm.
And then I want to offer that brood to the slaver species, which will be Formica sanguinea, and sort of document how they interact as their different interactions between the different species, and sort of just various little stuff. Do they prefer a specific Formica species over another? Mm-hmm. So when they're offered the brood, they'll be offered in basically little sort of outworlds or containers or sections. I'm not exactly sure how I'll deliver it yet, but they'll get to choose at which brood that they want to raid. So that's my planned sort of species list.
Awesome.
And harps if I can get them.
Yeah.
But I'll see what happens with work first.
Right, work comes first, eh? Unless you can turn the hobby into an actual job.
But that's the dream, man. That's the dream.
Yeah.
If I can move into conservation, then certainly I can start to combine both the hobby and a new career.
For sure.
So this career is quite restrictive. So
just
I'm
remember,
gonna use this.
just remember what Miles said. Like, there's the their profession / the ant keeping hat. Gotta know what hat's on.
Yep, definitely.
Ant Hollifer, Antscapes. You guys have any species you're planning on keeping soon?
I mean, I think it's starting to become a meme on my channel, but I've been waiting for leaf cutters for, I don't even know, like 6-8 months now. But they are.
You will get them.
Yeah, it does sounds like Ant Davey. He has them. I think he will be getting them within a few weeks. So hopefully I'll be getting them within a month or so. But yeah, I've been waiting for leaf cutters for a very long time now. Although I did just unbox from a Kafuska last week, so I did just get a new colony.
Nice. Yeah, I saw that. All right. Antscapes, do you have any colonies you're wanting to have soon?
Yeah, I really want trapjaw, but I just can't find them anywhere. And if I do find them, then they get sold straight away. That's for my mountain paludarium. I think they do really well in that, but just can't find them, mate. And they're expensive, so I'll just wait and see. With that one, it's established now, so whatever I do add, I'm hoping does okay. We'll see, mate.
Right.
Well, we'll see.
For more art, do you guys have any species you plan on keeping soon?
Not necessarily on keeping soon. I did get 3 cryptic species that I was already mentioned, so I guess that would be it. Yeah, for now.
Nice. Urban organisms. Is there any species you plan on keeping soon?
I hope I'll be able to keep them soon. I'm hoping I'll be able to catch some cephalotes this summer. Any of the species in the U.S., whether it's Texanus or variants. Having one of those would be awesome. I just love their shapes. And I've seen workers in the past before, and both their body structure and the way they move around, they don't even look like ants almost, so they're just so cool with also the majors with their little circular heads that they use to block the entrance to the nest. So I find those really fascinating.
Awesome. And Makusi, is there any species you plan on keeping soon?
Probably leaf cutters shortly. The kind of whole point of the Weaver setup was to blend it into an adaptation, which will kind of, because obviously those Weaver setups can work side by side, so they were kind of almost like a foundation for working into a leaf cutter setup. So keeping a colony of those for the research side of things, which will probably be hopefully soon. What else? There's and another one, Myrmecia, would be a sort of a great species to get hold of, because I know very niche, but they're very, very cool species.
Does this mean that you'll be making a leaf cutter setup?
Yes,
things?
It does. Yes, it does.
Ah,
interesting. There's obviously so much work to do with those, as you know. They're very, very full-on species. JB knows there's a lot of work to be done with those, so it will be it's more of like a personal project for now, which, like everything, although it starts personal, then as I work on things and tinker around, try and maybe release something possibly next year.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be nice for more people too, because there's not a whole lot. I know they're really popular over in the States. Over this side, there's a few keepers, JB being one of them. Obviously, it'd be cool if a lot more people start keeping them. But again, it's those setups, as you know, they're very hard to get hold of, and there's not really many stores that really cater for them.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the problem is just people say it's so hard to keep leaf cutters because you have to give them the correct environment. And I mean, I think the only store, I think there's like 2 or 3 stores that sells like dedicated leaf cutter setups. And personally, I'm not all in on the whole pot system where it's around, because you can't really view you can't really look through it completely good. So I don't really think there's a proper setup that you can buy for leaf cutters at the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, if you guys don't mind me chiming in on the leaf cutter setups, well, of course you can't place them in like a standard ant nest. I think actually they're arguably one of the easiest to set up, especially if you're trying to do some like DIY. I mean, for the nest is, well, especially what I see keepers doing here in the States.
Yeah.
For like the nest portion, it's as simple as a container with a base of plaster, and then you just connect an outworld. So compared to like other nests where you may need, say, like vertical space or, designing the chambers, here you can literally take any plastic container, just pour a, I don't know, 2-3 centimeter base of plaster, and you're good to go.
I think it's the heat.
That is very true.
Stateside, I think it's much easier because you don't have to worry too much about the heating side of things as much. Whereas some of the colder climate countries, it's combining that heating and the humidity where the trickiness comes, I think.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
here in Denmark, here in Denmark, it's like in the winter I have to turn the heat on like all the time to keep it at the correct temperature, whereas in the summer I have to really work my way to get the heat away. So I think that's definitely why it's a lot here. It's a lot harder, at least, where we have winter times to keep a constant.
I think they're quite an easy species if you keep them as a native species. That's why I know they're really popular over in the States because they've got a lot of options, and they're native there. I think that's why they have such a great time and they're very popular. Just rest of the world, Europe-wise, obviously Denmark and things like that, because of the cold winters, it's hard having that regulation of temperature up and down. The swings are too great, and that's why the setups, I think, need to just are very crucial to how successful they are, because they can't go too hot or they can't go too cold. So yeah, as JB and as Holifer will know.
Yep. So
yeah, two things regarding.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to add something quickly regarding that. I actually wouldn't say that they're that popular here in the United States. I mean, ADA are only native to, by leaf cutters, I assume we're referring to ADA and not acromyrmex.
Probably, yeah.
But ADA are only present in Texas and Arizona, I believe. And there's not many keepers that I know that actually have colonies past maybe a year or two. Off the top of my head, I can maybe only think of 5 if I really tried. But yeah, even though say you're native to Texas, the issue, like you all said, is the fungus keeping it alive. And actually some keepers I've noticed, well, they make mistakes. They want to heat the leaf cutters the same you would heat, say, something like a Pagoda myrmex. And the fungus actually doesn't like temperatures above 75 degrees, so they actually end up cooking the fungus, thinking that it would make it grow faster.
Okay, can I pop in with a question?
Yes.
Why don't you think acromyrmex as leaf cutters?
Oh no, I do think of them as leaf cutters. I simply think I was just saying that I think we're all referring to ADA by leaf cutters. I guess the same applies to acromyrmex as well.
Okay.
Here's a general question about the hobby itself. Feel free to answer if you guys want or feel like answering this question. What's the most frustrating part of ant keeping?
Definitely a queen not founding as she should found. I think the most, I just hate when I have a colony that's just not doing well, and then whenever I check on them every like second week, I can see that she have eaten her larvae and laid eggs. That is not nice.
I agree with that, and most of the customers that reach out that we can hear, they sound a bit frustrated. That's the exact thing they say. I've been checking on my queen. She had eggs. I looked today and they're gone. And that's very frustrating because you don't know that perhaps even your own frustration is causing the problem. You're so worried about them that you bother them more than you should, right? So it's one of those problems that become a frustration, and then the frustration feeds the frustration, and it just gets into this ball of negativity with your experience with ant keeping, right? But I would agree with that. The colony is just not developing and things are disappearing, and I don't know why. And not knowing why is very frustrating.
It is.
For me, I think it's finding space because it's an addiction. So you just keep getting ants and you keep getting more ants and more ants, and your house doesn't grow along with them. So just finding space.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's why my ultimate goal is to open a mini zoo filled with ants, because it's the only way I'm going to survive at this rate.
Just don't release them into your room and allow them to walk around in your room. It's a bad idea.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're not supposed to do that.
I mean,
My
some people do
missus
that.
would have my guts for darters.
I think Lights Camera Ants did a video or something where he like let them go in his
To be
room.
fair, he did it with a colony of trachymimics, and if you understand how trachymimics forage, they don't actually go far from their nest. The risk of that allowing them out as a species of what they are, because they're a fungus growing species, they're not a major threat. They don't sting. They can nip you, but it's not the end of the world. And I believe they're native to where he is, so the risk of what he did was low. But I thought it was kind of an interesting social experiment that he did with them to see what happens. But I know there's mixed views about it.
It's funny because we've been requested. So this is one of those products that we don't necessarily sell, but sometimes we get requests, and sometimes we can actually do that, make those requests happen. We got requested to create a nest, a modification of one of our nests, so that the main chamber can have the queen, but only the workers will be able to fit the entrance of that chamber to go out. So the queen will not be able to leave the chamber, but all of the workers will. And what this individual is planning on doing is pretty much attempting an experiment so that the workers can go outside and forage, but they will have to go back to that queen because she cannot leave. Again, it's a big experiment, right? It's not necessarily something that we're going to sell right now, but it does make me wonder how that's going to work, what kind of experience that's going to be, and how they're going to set it up.
What's the purpose of the queen not being able to leave the chamber?
I have the exact same experiment literally just launched together with Wakushi like 2 weeks ago. And that is a Campanodus ligniperta colony where queens can't live together because, well, it's they will kill each other. But the experiment is that, as far as people have found, that the queens won't kill each other if they don't know that there are more than one queen. And the workers may end up making one big scent, even though it's 3 separate small colonies. So I got a specialized Venus nest from Akushi, where we have 3 test tubes where the queens can't leave, but when the workers arrive, they will be able to leave and go into the different test tube chambers.
Yeah, and is the hope making them eventually able to coexist?
Yeah, for the Danish word, but yeah, it is the myth is that queens will be able to co-found a colony if they don't, but they don't know that they are co-founding a colony. So the queens will never meet and never interact in their entire colony life, but the workers will be able to walk from one queen to another and be one colony but with 3 queens.
I think the rumor is that the reason there's not multi-queen ligniperta is that the queens are actually which attack each other. The workers are not the ones that are aggressive towards the queens. So as long as you can keep the queens away from each other, the colony should work out. So that's kind of the experiment that Holofer's running.
And the other side of the experiment, and I think it's more what we were requested, is not so much being able to merge colonies or introduce queens slowly, so they don't kill each other. That's one powerful aspect. I think the individual that specifically requested this specific nest to be modified, they just want to have their ants be able to forage naturally, but they want them to return back to their nest. So the plan is to have them be able to go outdoors and forage and be the most biologically accurate, if I may say that. I don't think that's accurate, but like trying to give them their environment as natural as possible, but still be able to enjoy the nest.
So it's like an open world, outworld.
Yeah,
that sounds so cool.
Okay,
I don't know if it's gonna work, but we're gonna give it a shot. So stay tuned.
It does sound quite cool. I must say, my ligniperta queens, they were able to escape the smallest hole. I don't know how they escaped, but literally, they were big.
It's amazing what they can fit through. They don't look because when I was designing it with Holofer,
Mm-hmm.
I thought these holes, like the workers might struggle to fit through these, and then the first one I sent him within, I think it was what, like 10 minutes, he sent me a video of one of the
like
queens
30
he got
minutes.
out of it, and the hole was like probably like half the size of the gaster of the queen, but they must almost like kind of like an octopus. They can stretch or something to get through small spaces. I'm guessing it's quite important for the wild, but yeah, just something to bear in mind that you've got to just factor that in. That they can get through much smaller holes than it looks.
Yeah, I mean, they were struggling to just poke their head out, and somehow they got all the way out. So, yeah.
Nice.
Just be in mind of that.
Yep. Okay, so we're gonna move on to the next question. Any tips or advice on finding your first queen? How do you know it's a queen? Anyone?
I don't know if I can just keep on going.
Yep.
I'm very honest and I'm very public about showing how, I don't know, stupid or not wise I am. So whenever I find something that looks like a queen or maybe a major or something, I'm just going directly into Instagram, posting a picture, a lot of hashtags, and just trying to share it to find out what people think. And I think last year I found like 7 different species I didn't know, and pretty quickly I found out that one guy could identify all of the species. So if I see a Collins Day, or a queen or a worker, I pop it up on Instagram, and then I also send it to him to just see what response I get.
Nice.
That's how I do it, at least.
I think a short answer is just social media. I mean, it's such an unbelievably great tool that people have access to now. Facebook groups. There's some really massive ones. I mean, we see it all the time. Just people post a picture. Is this a queen? And within like 5 minutes, there's like 3 posts. Some people know the exact species as well as the genus. So I think the short answer is just social media.
Yeah, don't stay back. Just go out and ask.
I would say there is a slight sort of thing with that. It's just often the photography or the videos can be difficult to identify. So if people are doing this, then it might be worth, if you have access to one, using a magnifying glass. If you look on the back of the thorax, you'll be able to see wing scars, which is probably your biggest sign that you've possibly got a queen.
Yep.
Now, not all species do actually have wings. So there are a few species that won't count towards, but 90% or the majority of species certainly have wings that the queens will chew off, and you'll have wing scars that you'll be able to see with magnifying glass. And you might also be able to take a picture that way, which will be better for people to identify. So definitely worth a try.
Did you say magnifying glass?
Yes, magnifying glass. That's what I use.
Yeah.
Personally, I use a jeweler's magnifying glass, and I just check the back of the thorax and stuff like that, and you're able to see. But if you line up your camera, you can actually get a shot. It's not the best shot, but you can get a more detailed shot.
Yeah.
But it'll have the ring of the magnifying glass around it. But just play around with it. That's what I say.
Yeah, I was gonna say, careful, you don't want to burn the ant like my roommate.
Well, don't do it in the sunshine. That's for sure.
Right, don't do it in the
sunshine. But do it under good lighting.
Right.
A good light in there.
Yeah.
I do recommend buying either a digital microscope. I'm so surprised how cheap they're getting. I think you can get one for like $30-$40.
Okay.
And connects with Bluetooth and everything. So those have been super useful for me.
Yeah.
Or even the little tiny magnifying lenses for phone cameras. They actually can be powerful enough to get you that close and see things that you wouldn't be able to see. I am very blind myself, so I have the best eyesight ever, even with my glasses. I just not very gifted with my eyes. So I definitely need that microscope to be able to actually see. And it's not just about finding the ID. Like I also say that social media is a very powerful tool because we all collectively help each other. But if you all take the time to observe and ponder, even if you have a queen of whatever species it is that you have, let's forget for a second about putting a name to it. Just admire the queen, learn from her, observe her, do analysis, right? I mean, the whole point of the hobby of ant keeping is to learn. And sometimes we're in such a rush to get to the end, right? Oh, the goal is to have a colony in a formicarium and an outworld and have it as big as possible. And I can see why that's a very, very, fun strategy. But at the same time, I see so much people that forget to actually pay attention to what they already have in front of them right now.
Correct.
So you may not have a colony with 1,000 workers, but you have a beautiful queen in front of you, a wonder of evolution and biology and diversity. Put the time to actually observe her and learn from her. Forget about the name and the classification and all of these formalities. Learn from that. And the other thing I can add to that, just because I'm on that ball right now, we also do pay a lot of attention to enclosures and outworlds and should I use a test tube or a nest or this or that and left and right and whatnot. And in the same air, we don't pay attention to outside. Right here, we are trying to figure out how to keep ants inside of the house the best we can, and we forget to walk outside of the house and observe and see ants in their natural environment and learn what they do and how they behave and how they thrive. Because if you really want to be successful indoors trying to replicate their environment, you do have to pay attention to their actual environment, not just what you created for them in home. So that disconnection with nature for me is very alarming because in my opinion, the hobby is all about bringing nature into our houses and learning from it. So I don't understand why the disconnection.
Right.
But I get it. We're living in a very virtual world where we're learning about ant keeping by watching other ant keepers and what they do on social media, and that's great.
Yep.
And you can learn a lot from that, but don't forget to go outside and look at the floor and learn from that.
Exactly. So we're going to move on to this next question, which kind of talks about enclosures, since you kind of mentioned it. How do I know my ants are quote unquote happy or healthy in their enclosure I am keeping them?
Stress test.
What?
Just kidding. Sorry, guys. Do a stress test on them, right?
I'd say look at their abdomen. A really good indication if there's a lot of brood, and if the workers' abdomen are full. That's generally a good sign.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I always like looking
but
at
also stress test, of course.
Stress test, yeah. Bad idea, folks. Don't do that. Don't grab the test tube and shake them up. Don't do that.
I just envisioned Finding Nemo with the little girl shaking the bag.
Yeah.
Big.
Put them on the runner to see how fast they can.
For all those who are listening and watching, this is a beginner's guide. We do not suggest stressing your queens at all.
Don't listen to him.
But joke aside, I do think it goes with hand with what I was saying, right? If you observe them in their natural habitat and you get to recognize how your colony looks in their natural environment, you're going to be able to see that in your colony indoors, right? But yeah, looking at their gaster, I definitely agree that that's the one thing that I look at. Are they actually eating, and do they look full? For sure.
Awesome.
I know it's not my day today, but can I point something out? When it becomes to beginner ants and being new to the hobby, and I've totally crashed it. I only came to say hi, by the way. Hi. I noticed that a lot of my ants, I don't always see them feeding at the early stages of getting them. So they might be perfectly happy, and I'm just not observing them feeding, thinking they're not feeding when actually they are, and they're still quite content. So just bear that in mind if you're a beginner and you've got a species that doesn't seem that active, but if they've got brood, they're eating. Sorry, I just wanted to say hi. I'm on tomorrow. Love you all. Bye.
Stay. Where you go?
I've got.
There. Problem solved. I disconnected him. Oops.
Savage, man.
That was savage. You're probably going to have a very
savage
angry
man.
tomorrow.
Probably.
The most savage man in all the West.
He's going to be throwing whiskey bottles at you.
It's okay, I'll be drinking them as he throws them. How do you convince your parents / housemates your ants will not escape?
Don't tell them about them.
Ooh.
I think if you are a beginner ant keeper and your parents won't let you just get DIY setups, I think you should get some proper setups. It may be hard because, well, proper setup costs money, but proper setups are really escape-proof. That's my thought, at least.
Live in the wilderness and become a fully fledged ant yourself.
Yeah.
I would say first try to reason with them. Unless you're getting, I don't know, like some highly invasive, not invasive, but like one of the species that does like regularly invade homes,
Hmm.
like I don't know, Argentine ants or Tapanoma or something like that.
Hmm.
Unless you're getting one of those, just reason with them, explain them to them, you can show them some videos, be like, people spend like countless hours designing nests, this and that, making their perfect habitat. So even if they did escape, for the majority or a good portion of ant species, they would not survive in your average home. They wouldn't have food, they wouldn't have the moisture they need, so try to reason with them. And then if that doesn't work, yeah, I would suggest just hiding them, just getting them and hiding them. A simple tubs and tubes setup can
Hmm.
be hidden nearly anywhere in a closet, under a bed, so
Yeah.
yeah, just do what you have to do.
Or you can book a Zoom meeting or a Google meeting with For More Art, and we'll try to convince them for you.
Yeah. Or
Convince you.
or you can give them advice. We would get new innkeepers do your research. So my housemate actually for one whole year, he was like, you're not allowed to keep carpenter ants in the house, and I was like, dude, they don't actually eat the wood, and he's like, well, they ruin houses, and I'm like, dude, like they don't. Like, I mean, yeah, they do if they get into like moldy and rotten wood, but they don't really. So he found out recently, actually. He was like, well, I found out they don't actually eat the wood. So I was like, does that mean I can keep them now? And he's like, well, I guess you can. So I was like, yay! So yeah, just be honest.
Yeah, there's like a lot of, I guess you could call it sort of ignorance out there.
Yeah.
I was like at a friend's house, right? And I was actually collecting termites. And literally in the front yard, right? I was flipping rocks and like aspirating termites. And then I brought them into the house, and my friend's parents were like, What are you doing with these? Like, you can't have them here. They're gonna eat the house." And I was like, first of all, like they're literally everywhere, right? Like in any wooded area, like flip a rock, crack open a rotting log, there's termites all around you. And
Hmm.
second of all, like I got these out of your front yard. And third of all, like these are like damp wood termites. Like you said, unless your house is rotting or something, there's no way these are gonna escape and like I don't know, tear down your floors and walls. So yeah,
Right.
just a lack of information causes a lot of people to be afraid of them and of things they really shouldn't be afraid of.
Yeah, for sure. Like when we were in the backyard and my housemate, I'm just gonna call him Joe because that's his name. So Joe had spotted, so he saw this dead tree in the backyard. So he went over to it. He saw like the branch was like broken off already. So he went over to the tree and like grabbed onto one of the branches and it just like snapped and then a bunch of carpenter ants just started like, pouring out of it. And we were realizing how big this colony was, and I'm like, yeah, they've been out here for years because it doesn't take them. It takes them a while to get to this population. Like there was a lot of carpenter ants out there. It was crazy, but like, yeah, um,
Yeah, if you have campos living in your house, then you have a bigger problem than ants.
yeah, for sure. Um, there was an interview that I did with Ants Manitoba, one of the very first episodes, and he was talking about finding like a log, and there was carpenter ants in there. He took the carpenter. It's actually a video that he did also that you can see on his YouTube channel. And then I did an interview for the beginning of this season. We did an interview with Corporal Nosage, who does the opposite of what we do. He controls them instead of keeping them. And he actually went into a customer's house, and in the house there was a carpenter ant nest in the attic, and the amount he said the customer I guess told him that they've been there for months, and I said, well, how big was this colony? And he was like, it was massive, and I was like, it wasn't there for months, it's been there for years. Like it's been there for years if it was that big. So that was one point about them. So one question we got was, I want to get more involved and learn more about ant keeping. What are my next steps?
I'd say join Formiculture, join the Discords. Um, and yeah, I guess just become involved in the community. A lot of people on Instagram as well.
Oh
But yeah,
yeah.
the Discord, like the biggest ones, there's I think thousands of people on there by now, hundreds if not thousands.
Oh yeah.
So literally any time of the day, there's someone active from some part of the world.
Oh yeah, for
So you
sure.
can always talk there, ask questions. Facebook groups are really good too.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah. Anybody else here have response to that? One thing I have to say is definitely look up videos on YouTube, look up different creators, not just Ants Canada, but a lot of other content creators that are growing in the hobby, and reach out to actual people who are selling nests and selling ants and stuff. Know what the laws are in your country before you buy ants online, because a lot of the times people will get exotic ants shipped to places you're not supposed to get them. I mean, normally in the U.S., it's frowned upon to get ants from different countries, but then like in Europe and Canada, it's a little bit more lenient. But another thing is not only YouTube, but there's podcasts now, not just Formicast. There's other podcasts like the Colonial Ant Cast, and there's some other podcasts out there, and more people getting involved in the community. So definitely check out podcasts if you like listening, or if you'd rather just watch videos online. You can definitely find some of those content creators out there. And that's why we do panels like this, so we can bring people that are experienced on, and they can give you guys examples. So anybody else want to add to that?
And definitely more into the Discord side, like urban organisms said. But the way I found like most of my YouTube friends today was just to go into YouTube and then search for ant videos, and then just press, like, I can't remember the button, but it shows videos that have been uploaded today. And then just go in and talk to them, because if you go to Ants Canada or other big videos that are like a year old or 2 years old, they won't see the comments. But if you go into a new video that's only a few hours old or maybe a few days, most of the time the content creator will go in and check the comments, and that's how I have became friends with most of the YouTubers I'm friends with today. So,
for sure.
but of course I'm also a YouTuber myself. But
yeah.
I'll let you guys. It's definitely worth checking out my blog site as well, because I've got a whole list of links in the Our Colony section, which will take you through. And I've also started an ant guide section. There is actually a written beginner's guide that I'm still working on, but the basis of it has already been written up and is available to be read.
Yeah. Ant guides. So yeah, awesome. Next question is, I cannot find a queen. Can I order them online?
Depends on where you live.
True that.
If you're from Europe, it's a very good possibility. If you are from the United States, it's a whole nother thing.
Right now, I mainly get mine from Tar Heel Ants for when it comes to purchasing my ants here in the United States. Is there any other places urban organisms other than Tar Heel Ants?
Ants Emporium is a shop that opened up recently, and just like Tar Heel Ants, they've gotten permits to ship certain species to certain states. So it's state specific, but for some species, I think they've been approved for almost all 50 states. So, yeah. And then there's a third option, which is probably not as, I guess, beginner friendly, but there's always the option of applying for your own permits if there's a particular species you want to get from a certain state. But that's usually a very, very long process unless you happen to have some contact inside the USDA that can speed it up for you.
Right. Do we know who the owner of Ants Emporium is?
No, I'm not sure.
Okay, yeah, trying to figure that out. But yeah, I haven't ordered anything from them yet, but I've been keeping track of their stuff. I've caught too many queens. Can I sell any ant colonies? Can I ship them? Like, again, it depends on where you are from and if you can get a permit for them. Which type of containment methods are best, and do they vary from different species?
Again, I think the question answers itself. It does vary a lot from species to species. It is really, like we have discussed a lot today, it is just researching and finding out what works best for people, because although acrylic nest types might be best for some colonies, it's definitely depending on the species. Especially if you get something like art or something like that, they have some very specific criteria. So definitely dependent on the species.
Okay. Sweet. All right, so we're gonna go over part 2 tomorrow, and we'll do that question for me and JB tomorrow as well. All right, so we're gonna get into some live questions. So we're gonna go ahead and open up the recording channel and allow the people in the waiting room to hop over. Let me go ahead and actually add that view channel and connect, speak. All right, for those who are sitting in the waiting room, go ahead and pop over. All right, so I think we got a couple people in there now. All right, Stein's in here and Pro Ant Keeper's in here. All right, so if you guys have any questions for any of us, feel free to ask those questions. Unless you guys want to write them in. Let's see. Well, one question that I got for me and JB, actually, I can ask that question. Any tips on starting an ant podcast, and what do you consider a good mic? For me, I use the HyperX Quadcast mic. That's the mic I normally use for that. And to start an ant keeping podcast, you can do anything you put your mind to. This show started with a question on the Formiculture website, basically asking people if they wanted a ant keeping podcast, and they were on board. And look where we're at now. So, anything you want to add on to that, JB?
I use the Audio Technica AT2020, the USB version, so it's called the Plus. It's quite a decent mic if anyone wants to check that out as well. Certainly, I'd say that Anchor FM is an absolute lifesaver for podcasts.
Yep.
You can edit on it, but if not, then you want to check out Audacity. Me and Audacity don't get on too well. We're not the best of friends. I'm trying to be its friend, but it doesn't like me too much.
Yeah.
So we will get there one day, and I will tame that software.
For sure.
But for now, it's a bit of a stallion kicking up grief every time I use it. But yeah, that's all I have to add on that. And good luck if you do. Let us know, and we'll get you on the show.
Awesome. All right. So if anybody has questions for any of us, now is the time. If you guys have any questions for each other, go ahead and feel free to ask them before we close.
I have a question for. Oh yeah, you go first.
For those who have insect aspirators, how many times have those been very useful for you?
Well, if I want to include ants in my diet, go ahead. For more.
The aspirator, for example, for us is useful mostly when we're trying to collect a lot of workers, not just the queens, or for when I need to grab some larvae or pupae. I have a much easier time lifting them up without causing damage using air, the suction of air, as opposed to me trying to physically touch it. For ants, for queen ants, I would say it's a half-half. I have found myself now to be more skilled at picking them up directly into the test tube without the use of an aspirator. But when I was a bit of a beginner, I would say that it was way easier for me to actually capture those queens with the use of the aspirator versus what I do now. I guess I am not as afraid nowadays, so I can touch them more without causing harm. At the beginning, I remember getting very nervous. I was afraid of causing harm. That would make me even more nervous, which would make things even worse. So I at that stage, aspirating them was definitely good. One time I did aspirate a queen and some of the workers that were around just having fun, and I didn't realize that I was aspirating a species that sprays formic acid. So when those ants start to spray formic acid inside of the aspirator, that was not a good experience. So I think I learned my lesson. So do a little bit of your research, because there are some species that you're not gonna have fun aspirating formic acid, and there is a way to filter the formic acid as well. So
Yeah.
Also,
yeah,
as a
currently I
suggestion,
do it
you
by
can
hand.
use a USB hoover.
Well, one at a time, folks.
Sorry.
Go ahead, JB.
I was saying, with the aspirators, if you get a USB hoover and a power bank, and you hook it up, instead of damaging your lungs, you can just use the suction of the USB hoover, and usually they're not powerful enough to damage the ants. So it's the same as you breathing in, except you're not risking your lungs, because not just formic acid, but you can pick up fungal spores and other kinds of horrible stuff that you really don't want getting into your lungs.
Yeah. I had accidentally, when I was using the aspirator at the camping trip, actually got some formica in my mouth, and they sprayed me with formic acid. Yeah, it didn't taste really good.
I'm gonna say an aspirator is like, it's like one of the most essential tools I have as an ant keeper. If you're trying to even feeding, if I'm feeding my ants and say like a couple workers or one worker makes it past the fluon barrier, small species, it's very hard to just workers. It's hard to pick up without crushing them. Just aspirate that right up. It's very useful for cleaning outworlds. A lot of times my ants make like a little pile of like dirty sand and insect carcasses in the corner, and I find the aspirator is the easiest way to clean that up. And then if you're out trying to collect small species of ants, such as Phydolia, if you're flipping rocks, I'd say there's almost no way of, especially if they dart down into their tunnels very quickly, there's almost no better way of collecting those than an aspirator. You could try to do it by hand, but you either risk missing the queen as she darts down, or possibly crushing her, which is even worse. One recommendation I will say is that the regular, like the little mesh that comes on the aspirator, it's very fine, but it still allows certain dirt particles, whatever and whatnot, to get through. So I have bought and attached some sort of car filter into the tubing, and that will filter out all small particles. It will not filter out formic acid, however, but you don't have to worry about ingesting fungal spores and whatnot that could cause any sort of disease. So that's my recommendation. I believe Miles Maxer in the Ant Network, he has a video on his aspirator setup. I've pretty much copied what he does with his, so I would definitely recommend checking that out. But yeah, in my opinion, it's an essential tool for almost everything.
I agree.
One tip I'd like to pass on, if possible, as well, is don't underestimate the value of makeup brushes in ant keeping, because they're really nice, soft, bristled brushes. And if you're struggling to pick up queens or fragile ants, you can actually pick them up really easily using a makeup brush. So it's like I have so much like what's purpose to be makeup kit, but it's my ant keeping kit. So like trying to explain that to my friends often is a bit sketchy, but yeah, I have tons of makeup stuff. Like even eyelash, the eyelash things, I use that to like as cleaners and stuff like that. So
For sure.
yeah, it's worth looking into.
Following on from what JB mentioned, there actually, and I use it quite a lot, is you've just showed it in the on the screen, was the USB, and there is a USB version, which is pretty good, but there's also the same thing as a rechargeable version, and I actually use that for collecting queens during nuptials, and you can actually, they're pretty good because they take a pretty standard tube size, so you can actually use those instead of breathing into a puta. You just connect them up to the puta, or aspirator, sorry. So that works really well. And if for some reason you're not using them with an aspirator, you can just use them as they are, because the nice thing with those, they have a foam inside, so it just sucks up into the main sort of vacuum chamber. And if you want to, you can then just open the chamber and tip your ants in. You use them quite a lot for if you're moving colonies out of test tubes into sort of tubs and tubes temporarily, and retubing and things like that. So those really are a fantastic tool, and very inexpensive as well.
For sure. We're gonna take the last question from Stein, and then we're gonna go ahead and close because we've been recording for 2 hours.
Hello. Yeah, so I wanted to go back to the topic of letting ants forage in your room, if nobody minds.
Yeah,
That's fine. Sure question.
So, like, I saw this video, and like you guys said, it was a really cool experiment. Like, yeah, all fun. But he didn't put any disclaimer in this video, so that was kind of the problem, I think. Because now there are going to be 10-year-olds who think ants be ants, every ant is the same. I will let my fire ants forage in my room. Something like that's a bit extreme, but still.
Right.
Yeah, I haven't actually seen the content, but I do always say if you're a content creator, then it's always good to try and stress the reasons why or the responsibilities behind it or the purpose of the experiment, and that it's not just for entertainment purposes, that there's actually something that you're trying to understand or figure out, and you're using your ants to perform an experiment to have more knowledge in that subject or to advance knowledge for the greater good, which is often what I try to look at when I'm looking at experiments, is could this experiment advance keepers' experience in the hobby and help them to grow and develop it in another way, or to greater understand a species that, there's still so much to find out about every species out there. Even studying just behaviors and stuff like that, there's quite little done, because the amount of time and people it takes and manpower to put a study together is actually quite incredible. So as keepers, we can only do small scale ones, but scientists do large scale ones, but they can only focus on one tiny subject at a time. And there's just billions of these tiny subjects that need whole teams to be focusing on to have a full understanding of these creatures.
For sure. Yeah, so on the 19th, we're going to be doing a crossover episode with the Colonial Ant Cast, and with Aesthetic Ants and Makushi, we're doing a We Don't Improve episode. So we're going to be talking about the movement and explaining the movement better for the community. So look forward to that. So we'll definitely be talking more about that as well, Stein.
Yes.
So, all right, so folks, so we're going to go ahead and end this. It's been 2 hours of an awesome episode with you guys. I'm super pumped to see what people think and if they got more questions. So we're going to go ahead and close. Antscapes, if you want to go ahead and put in your social media, and you can go ahead and bow out because you need to go.
Yeah, much love, Tim. Thank you for having me, man. Really appreciate that, dude.
Yep. And where can people find you?
We'll drop it now.
All right.
Right. Much love, Tim. Have a good night.
Yep, you too.
Enjoy your Saturdays. Thank you.
All right. And Aunt Oliver?
Yeah. Well, I think I'm pretty much all over the place, but I'm mostly active on Instagram and YouTube. So Aunt Oliver on Instagram and Aunt Oliver on YouTube. So
awesome. Yep. Okay. And Portmore Art, where can people find you?
Everywhere. Portmoreart.ca, YouTube, Instagram. I'm lurking around Discord and these groups and stuff like that. So just search us.
All right. JB, where can people find you?
Well, the main hub to find me is thecolonialist.co.uk, which is my blog site, which has links to various other sites, as well as all the social medias that can be found, as well as other content creators, stores, and bloggers in the ant keeping community. If you want your link added to my link tree, please get in contact and let me know, and I will add you all in. And hopefully, I'm still trying to convince Durka here to become a blogger on the website and keep us updated on his stuff. But we'll see how that goes, because you got your website coming up soon, which I'm hoping to help you with.
Yes, sir. We got a couple of people that are gonna get involved with that. So, yes, I do plan on blogging. So it's probably starting next week. Since I'll explain that in a minute why. Urban Organisms, where can people find you?
I'm pretty much on everywhere as well, but main place, if you guys want to talk to me, ask me any questions, would be Instagram. It's urban_organisms, so feel free to send me a DM on there or ask any questions. And I have my YouTube linked in my bios there as well, as if anyone wants to check it out.
Sweet, awesome. And Wakushi, where can people find you?
Obviously, wakushi.com, or we're on all the social medias, so Instagram, Discord, Facebook, you name it, really, we're there.
Awesome. All right, so next time on Formicast podcast, next week is the break week, so we're taking a break for a whole week. No episodes. I might do some live streams here and there. I'm going to be working on the website mainly and making sure things are running smooth. The week after that, we're doing the We Don't Approve episode crossover with the Colonial Ant Cast, Wakushi, and Aesthetic Ants on the 19th of June. On June 27th, we're doing an interview with Ender Ants, so look forward to that. And then on the 4th of July, we are doing an ant quest on North America, so that's going to be pretty sick. August coming up as well. We'll do another ant quest. We're doing an extra life weekend where we're going to be raising money for kids in hospitals. So that's going to be a great project for the ant keeping community to get behind. Also, we're going to be celebrating 1 year for Formicast in the beginning of September. So we're going to be doing a giveaway. I already got some people that have reached out and want to donate nests and supplies for that. So that's going to be pretty cool. And then we're also planning on doing a Michigan Ant Together for those who are listening that are from Michigan and are interested in going anting in Michigan. Definitely hit me up. We're going to be doing something in Ann Arbor, Michigan. It's going to be a lot of fun. Other than that, that's pretty much it for this episode. We look forward to hanging out with you guys tomorrow. Formicast out. Say goodbye, guys.
Hi, everyone.
Thanks for this evening. Bye bye.
Thank you for having me.
Catch you later, guys.